recording.
Not yet. Wait.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. All right. Okay. So
And recording.
I think yes, we can
Is that
start right
everything
now.
okay? Okay. Assalamualaikum
Yes.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maria, and this is my partner, Fatimatul.
Fatimatul Zahrah Binti Ali.
Yes. Today we are very honored to conduct an interview with my partner and the two guests on this topic of disability tolerance and inclusion at IUM, which is an Islam perspective. The cause of the disabled is an important symbol to measure progress of social civilization in a country or a region. The course of disabled person is an integral part of the course of socialism, and the issue of the disabled person is related to social stability. What the disabled most need is not sympathy but equality, not charity but opportunity. Therefore, caring for the disabled starts with respecting them. Persons with disabilities should be treated with respect. Respect is a kind of self cultivation, a kind of character, a kind of equal treatment of people without being humble, non condescending, and a kind of full affirmation of the personality and the value of others. Able bodied people need mutual respect. Disabled people need special respect. So what many people don't understand is that there are many people in the world with serious mental illness. Most of them are recorded to express their emotions. So this is also a point of inclusiveness for the disabled. This is how can we find out these mentally ill people hidden in the Quran. How can we do our best to respect and to love them? How can we truly achieve disability inclusion? So today we are very fortunate to invite two guests to help us understand more about the topic. So our guest today, Dr. Zunaidah Binti Muhammad Marzuki and Sister Adhura Husna Binti Farouk. So now, Dr. Zunaidah, could you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Thank you, Mariam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Dr. Zunaidah at Department of Qur'an and Sunnah Studies, Ahas KIRKHS.
Thank you, Dr. Zunaidah. Sister Adhura, could you please say hi to everyone and introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thank you, Sister Moderator. So, my name is Adhura. I am the final year economics student, disabled final year economics student from the Department of Economics, College of Economics, and I am also a certified disability equality trainer, as well as currently I am the head of business development for Impact Consulting Kuala Lumpur Hub.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zunaidah and Sister Adhura for the introduction. So before we start with our webinar, I want to explain that this webinar will be happen inshallah only 1 hour, and before our session. So if you like to ask question to our speaker, feel free to comment in the chat box, and inshallah our speaker will answer them. All right. So without further, all right. So I will ask Sister Adhura first. All right, Sister. As our topic, will discuss about disability tolerance and inclusion, and there must be people who do not know what it means. So So, Sister Adhura, can you tell us what is mean by tolerance for people with disabilities?
Okay, so if I were to answer that, I'll have to do a bit of a warning because I will be quite the devil's advocate because I do dislike the word tolerance. It happened because a few years ago I was in the PCVE sphere, or preventing and countering violent extremism space, where we talked about the difference, the dissonance perspective or narrative between tolerance and acceptance. So tolerance is something that is not, I would say it's something that is not enough. For example, currently the moderators were talking about how we can help or how we can accept people who have mental disabilities or mental illness in our daily lives, and include them into our lives. But tolerance is more like, oh, that person has schizophrenia. Oh, that person has depression. Oh, this person has this and that and this and that, and you'll be like, okay, fine. But then you just tolerate them. You don't actually, you can tolerate something that you hate. You can be apathetic with it. You don't even need to do anything. So it doesn't actually goes as far as taking an action, taking the step towards including them into your daily decisions and your daily lives. So what I would like to propose is another term called acceptance. So acceptance is where you accept that these people have schizophrenia that may actually impact their life, which in turn may impact, like for example, if you employ a person with schizophrenia or depression into your workplace, their mental illness may affect their work, which in turn may affect your life. So tolerance means you just tolerate that and you don't do anything about it. But acceptance means you actually talk to them. How can we as a society help you cover whenever you're having these episodes, or help you to actually be better at doing your job? Because people with disabilities, we're not using our disabilities as an excuse to not be the best at ourselves. We're not using our disability as an excuse to not do the work. So we want to be able to contribute. We want to be able to be independent. But tolerance is not it. Tolerance is just like, oh, just because that person is schizophrenia, or depression, we're not gonna employ them. Because that's how tolerance works. But acceptance means we are employing them. At the same time, we do provide the environment that will cultivate the kind of environment that will help them. We don't want to say heal, because depression, mental illness is a long journey for each of them. But what we say is we want to make it easier for them to go through all these episodes, to go through all this journey, which Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given them, because they are the kinds of persons. Allah knows that they can go through all these things. So acceptance, in defiance of tolerance, is actually providing the necessary options, the necessary environment for them to thrive, um, within, despite their disabilities. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Husna. Give us a best understanding about the person with disability. So, I would like to ask the Dr. Zunaidah, can you share your understanding about disability inclusion?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To answer this question, I believe all of you had been exposed to what is disability inclusions since April of this webinar series. Am I right? Because as I can see from the poster of this class, there are many topics on disability inclusion. So basically, I benefited from definition from CDC website regarding disability inclusion, which means including people uh, with disabilities in everyday activities and encouraging them to have roles similar to their peers who do not have a disability is disability inclusion. Meaning to say, yes, as we can know from what is inclusion all about, inclusion is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people. So in disability inclusion, when we include people with disabilities in everyday activities and encouraging them to have roles similar to their peers who do not have a disability, this is called as disability inclusion. Disability inclusion involves more than simply encouraging people. It requires making sure that adequate policies and practices are in effect in a community or organization. Okay, so basically inclusion should lead to increased participation in socially expected life roles and activities such as being a student, worker, friend, community member, patient, spouse, partner, or parents. And socially expected activities may also include engaging in social activities using public resources such as transportation and libraries, moving about within communities, receiving adequate health care, having relationships, and enjoying other day-to-day activities. Here, I would like to stress about disability itself because what I benefited from disabilities Islamic perspective by Dr. Yunus, we know that disability term is not defined term in Islam. I mean, from Quranic, from Arabic and Islamic sources, from Arabic Islamic sources, there is no specific word with disability. What the concept of disability comes from specific words used in Arabic sources for specific conditions. For example, a'ma, someone with impaired vision; asam, someone with impaired hearing; abkam or akhras, speech impact; a'raj, mobility impact. Okay, so in Islam recognizes the fact that disability can lead to disadvantage. So that is why Islam also acknowledge disability inclusion, which regards to the definition and concept that we understood from CDC website on disability inclusion. That is what I can share from now.
All right, what an insightful information from Dr. Zunaidah about the meaning of inclusion the perspective of Islam. All right, so just like what Sister Adhura says about acceptance. So my next question is about you know that tolerance and inclusion is different things, where tolerance it means that we willingly or we accept we accept something or allow something without protest, and the inclusion means that an action for us to include or being include within a group. So here my question for Sister Adhura, can we link the tolerance for a person with disability to disability inclusion together? Can we link it together?
Yeah, that's a simple question actually, because I would say we can link it together, but it's not enough. But we definitely can do more about it. So to explain, then I have to talk about the definition of disability itself. So by the definition of WHO and the OKU Act, the OKU Act, disability is caused not because of the person's or the individual's impairments, because this when we talk about being normal, or when we talk about the ideal human being, it's a bit eugenic, and it's a bit some kind of like some people have talked about how we are not actually so okay, so I'm just going to wrap that up. Um, when we talk about disability, disability is caused not because of the person's impairment, but because of how their environment are not inclusive enough to let them enjoy doing all the normal, I wouldn't say normal, doing all the things that they need to do in their daily lives. Like for example, I am a person with multiple disability. So every day from the moment I wake up from my bed, which is I sleep on the left side because that's how I can get out of the bed easily. So from the moment I get out, from the moment I get up on my bed, going to pray subuh, dress, take a bath, take a shower, and everything is it all starts. Wait, So it all starts with making sure that my environment is adapted enough that I can do all of these daily lives without being assisted. Or at least, even if I was to be assisted, I can do all of this daily living stuff without a lot of pain or a lot of hampers. So so when we talk about disability, disability is about allowing people with disability. When we talk about disability inclusion, the practicality of it is allowing people with disability to assimilate into the society, either in their private space, like their homes. Like for example, if you see homes with people who are wheelchair users, all of their spaces are a bit lower. If you see homes of people who are dwarfs, they're short, right? They're short and cute and everything. So that's why all of their chairs, all of their cabinets, all everything is lower because it's easier for them to reach stuff. It's easier for them to sit. So that is disability inclusion. Disability inclusion is not about making prosthetics to amputees, making all of these stuff, but it's about making sure that the environment, like for example UIA, like for example our school, our workplace, accessible enough for people with disability, regardless of their disability, to participate in society. So that's what we can talk about. That's how we can link tolerance or even acceptance with people with disability inclusion. Like I said, tolerance is not enough. Tolerance is just, oh, you're disabled, okay. But acceptance is actually making sure that all of these changes happen so that disability inclusion can be achieved. So that's all from me.
Thank you, sister. And we just hear what does sister have to say about her routine and her point of view. So I think I learn more, understand, have more understanding, and from the sister's answer. So this make me want to ask Dr. Zunaidah, how important is disability inclusion from the Islamic perspective?
Okay, thank you. Not only Sister Mariam learn from Sister Adhura about disability inclusion, especially when Sister Adhura herself is facing that practically about disability inclusion. I'm not practically as disabled people facing this disability inclusion, but I practically do facing for my son who has cerebral palsy. Okay. Yes, to answer the question, as we can learn from Sister Adhura, that disability inclusion is that whereby the environment itself provide accessibility and facilities to people with disability to be included in activities, so on and so forth. So here, to answer how important is disability inclusion from the Islamic perspective, we can see from evidences in the Quran and Hadith, and from scholars' words as well. In the Quran, and in this very important and famous verse, when we talk about disability and disability inclusion, when Allah says, A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى وما يدريك لعله يزكى أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى وما عليك ألا يزكى وأما من جاءك يسعى وهو يخشى فأنت عنه تلهى. So from this verse, it is mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about a blind people who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam frowned and turned away. The verse reveal can be understood from several hadiths, for example, which narrated in COMM3090 when Aisyah radiallahu anha, the Prophet's wife, said, this verse was revealed about Ibnu Maktum, the blind man. He came to the messenger of Allah saying, O messenger of Allah, guide me. At that time, there was a revered man from the idolaters with the messenger of Allah. I mean, during that time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was busy with important figures from Quraysh, important figures. So Ibnu Maktum, Abdullah ibn Maktum came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to learn about Islam, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was more to attend these important figures among Quraysh. So the environment here, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not include Abdullah ibn Maktum in this occasion, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this verse, Surah Abasa. So from this verse, Quranic verse on Surah Abasa and the hadith regarding this revelation, and there are many more hadiths about Abdullah ibn Maktum, whereby we can understand that how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after that include Abdullah ibn Maktum. For example, as we can see from Sahih Muslim that Abdullah ibn Maktum used to pronounce azan at the behest of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, despite the fact that he was blind. And he also, in another hadith in Sunan Abi Dawud, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed Abdullah ibn Maktum as substitute to lead the people in prayer, and he was blind. And so Abdullah ibn Maktum, not only muazzin, not only imam, he also carried flag in battle. So there is this ability inclusion there. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed him as to be as a muazzin and imam and carried flag in battle. Okay, there was another companion named as Amr al-Jamuh. He is one of the Ansar of Madinah, from Banu Salama. Okay, when he was old, he became he after he reverted to Islam, he became so religious, and he would like to join battle with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and with his sons, but his sons did not permit him to join the battle because he was a weak man, already old, and he has problem with his leg. So meaning to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give exception for people like this, but still Amr bin al-Jamuh would like to join the battle in order to gain martyr. Okay, so he complained to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that his children did not or prevent him to taking part in the battle. He said that they say to him as he is crippled man, he's lame and old. So he asked permission from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to join the battle so that he can enter the paradise, although with his lame leg. Okay, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave permission to him to enter the battle. There are many other examples of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam companions with disability, and all of them are included in social or social activities, especially like battles, okay, praying, so on and so forth. For example, Atta ibn Abi Rabah was paralyzed, blind in one eye, and later was completely blind. He dedicated his life to seek the Prophet from the companions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and later became Mufti of Mecca. Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah had a disabled leg, yet he insisted to join the battles with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Julayb radiallahu anhu was described as deformed in appearance. Many people in Madinah made him outcast. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached a family to give the daughter in nikah. Parents had some reluctance, but the daughter accepted the proposal and they were happily married. Here, meaning to say, these evidences from the Quran and Hadith show us how how important is disability inclusion from Islamic perspective.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zunaidah. So we can say that we can,
We just
okay, so we
hear
can
about
say
the
that
doctor,
from what
doctor. Yes. Okay, and we just hear about the answer from Sister Husna and Dr. Zunaidah, and it makes me think about a lot of things. One of the hardest that Doctor just mentioned is talk about the blind people. I haven't. I have seen a lot of the hardest talk about the people who with disability, and this is actually makes me feel Islam is inclusive and it's beautiful because people are different. I remember that Islam teacher, and he said we are created different because whatever we got is a beauty of Allah's creation. That we are not the same in color, in mentality, or abilities. So I'm sure Fatima, too, you also want to say something about this question. Yeah, Fatima, too, what do you think?
Okay, I think I agree with Dr. Zunaidah and also what Mariam say, where in Islam we already teach that we must include everyone regarding their gender, regarding their race, skin color, and it include their disabilities because we are human beings. We are same. We are same. All right. So, Sister Adhura, just like what you say about the environment. So as final year student in IIUM, so I assume that you already meet a lot of people in IIUM, and I assume that you have many experience in IIUM. So my question is, as you can see, how does IIUM practice disability inclusion for students? I mean that what facilities that have been offered by IIUM and what should IIUM done for disability students, not only disability students but disability communities in IIUM?
Okay, thank you. So it was enlightening to hear from Dr. Zunaidah talking about from the Islamic perspective because we all know there is a club called Ibn Umi Maktoum Club in IIUM, specifically for students with disabilities, under the disability services unit, where we try to tackle everything disability related stuff. But of course, we have certain facilities, certain quote unquote special things for in the eyes of non-disabled people. But to me, it's just normal because it helps me a lot. But yeah, to answer that, we do have a few the facilities, but there more things can be done to for hopefully for future students, because I've been here for 4 years, not including foundation, so that's like 5 years, and I hope that future students do not have to go through whatever that I have been through in IIUM as a disabled student. So some of the facilities under disability services unit that we get is our own private room, because some of us have extra things that we carry. Like for example, I know some of my friends have. I am half paralyzed, so my left side is non-functional. Even though I can walk, but I can walk only as far. I cannot use stairs as much. Some of my friends have electrical wheelchairs. Most of us have to use the disabled toilet and the disabled washroom. And yeah, I mean, like I stay in Safia by myself at the PG block, so I have my own room, which helps because I can't like I even though people see me as quite extroverted, I'm quite introverted actually, and I do prefer to have my own time, and I do prefer to not being able to deal with people most of the time, because sometimes it just gets a bit too um too weird, or just it's just a bit, so that's just my thing. But yeah, UIA IIUM do accommodate certain things, especially I think it's mostly catered towards people with physical disability, like for example my wheelchair user friends, my wheelchair user classmates, batchmates, seniors. But we do lack a lot in terms of people with mental disabilities, ADHD, or even people with partial disabilities. Like for example, some people do, because disability can be both long term and short term. So I have a long term disability. Most of my friends have a long term disability. But if you break your hand, or if you break your leg, and you stay in Nusaibah, which is like so tall, which is normal for people from the Kuala of economics, how are you going to get to class? You know, so these things is catered under the disability services unit. We do have a van that can carry people. Like for example, sometimes I do have classes at KICT, so I used to ride the van to KICT itself, or sometimes I just take the bus if the van is late. But we do face a lot of issues with that, because like for example, I said that I stayed PG block, right? So PG block is a single room block. So which means that I do not have any roommates, I only have neighbors. So when that happens, our room is charged differently. So sometimes there will be a glitch in the system where we do have to take it up to RSD, we do have to take it up to certain administrative institutions in IIUM to fight, because it's already been enacted under the policy, IIUM inclusive policy. But sometimes things happen in such a way that my friends who have ADHD actually do not get enough attention in class, or they are not able to participate in class properly, or they prefer to do certain group assignments individually, because you get because of their disability. So sometimes these disability requests are not tolerated, or are not acted or accepted as much as people with students with disabilities who have physical disabilities, because our disabilities are seen. So I wear a walking stick. Some of my friends use a wheelchair, but my friends who are blind, who are hard of hearing, who are deaf, most of them do not have access to education like we do. They need certain things. They even require special access to certain things, so that they are able to learn as we do. So it goes back lah, because even as a person with visible disability, because that's what people with physical disabilities have. We're not invisible, even though my illness is invisible, but but my disability, I am categorized as visible disability, physical disability, which is visible. So even then, like for example, I have classes at the fourth floor, at the third floor. So sometimes when I want to use the elevator at the econs building, most of the students will be like, every time I want to use it, the students will fill up the elevators first before I get in. And I know that some of my lecturers who are also disabled, they also said the same thing, where sometimes they have to ask the students to, like, can you like move aside or get out of the elevator, because I need to use the elevator because I am disabled. So 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 it so it goes back to the problem between tolerance and acceptance. Sure, the university does tolerate us by providing us all of these facilities and etc. But we are not giving enough. Like, I am a disability equality trainer, so we are not giving enough training to students, or even if not all students, student leaders especially, that they have to be aware of these things, because if you've been here for a long time, like me or like all of the other lecturers, you know that the economics building is one of the oldest buildings in IIUM, and the elevator really likes to break down. So when you do classes on the third floor, on the fourth floor, or you do programs on the third floor and the fourth floor, and you expect people to come, and at the end of the program, and you say, why don't I see any people with disability in my program, you have to ask yourself back, are you being accessible? Do you provide sign language? Did you do the program when the elevator was broken? So how can I or any of my friends go up there, so it's facilities are there. We have ramps, we have everything. Under the law, we have certain things like, because I travel a lot because of my work. So I just came back from Malacca today. So that's why I was like, I'm so tired today. But it's just to say that every time I go anywhere, I will always look at the specifications of their facilities. Sure, you give facilities, you give accessible bathrooms, you have ramps, everything. But if the ramp is so steep, are you expecting people with disability to do an extreme sport at the ramp? So are you expecting us to be like BMX players after this, because of because the ramp is so steep? Like for example, I do understand. I have a friend who has cerebral palsy, and he can walk, he can drive, and everything. But I also know someone who has a cerebral palsy kid, who cannot even talk. So he uses a wheelchair. His mother drives him everywhere, and etc. I think he's about 12 this year. But it also shows, if we only tolerate, but and by providing these facilities, but we are not ensuring that people with disability are accepted. So we provide a ramp, so we provide a wheelchair, we provide a toilet, an accessible bathroom. But then these people on the wheelchair cannot even use the ramp because it's so steep, or cannot even use the toilet because the toilet have been used by janitors to put their mops and their vacuums and everything, or the toilet is not up to specification, because everything with disability has to be up to specification. Because then what's the point? Because, like for example, we just parked at a disabled parking somewhere just now, and the disabled parking is just a normal parking, but with a disabled stamp there. So what's the point if the disabled parking is too small for you to open the door to actually get your wheelchair, your wheelchair for your child out, and actually put your child on the wheelchair, and push the wheelchair out. What's the point of having all of these facilities, if you have all of these policies, but you're not able to use it up to the par where you are able to be, not just be independent, but able to participate in society? So that is kind of like a rhetorical question that I'm putting it out there. But IIUM, alhamdulillah, they have done a pretty good job. But as I said, we could definitely do better, especially in terms of inculcating certain values to students and yes, even staffs, even lecturers and admin staff, and etc. But we have to be more towards acceptance rather than tolerance lah.
Thank you, Sister Adhura. Uh, Actually, in fact, there were not so many disabled facilities in China before. So in my normal life, I cannot see the government's concern for the disabled. So then after I came to UIA, I found out UIA have so many toilet or place for the disabled. But after Sister Adhura said the daily troubles, I just realized, the things I think is perfect, but it's not perfect for the disabled. Some trouble I cannot even imagine that. The Dr. Zunaidah just talk about the important about the disability inclusion for the from the Islamic perspective. So I would like to ask Dr. Zunaidah something question about Islam again is how should we treat people with disability in Islam?
Okay, thank you, Sister Maria. Masya Allah, we learn a lot from Sister Azura and to answer this question too, we can incorporate those what have been suggested by Sister Adhura to understand and to practice, to realize, to make the suggestion into realization on how to treat person with disability, especially in Islam, because as we know that in Islam, all humans are dignified and equal. Allah says, A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim, wa laqad karramna bani Adam. And we have certainly honored the children of Adam. So all of us are dignified and equal. We should have equal opportunities to live with a normal life. And now we are no longer in normal life like before. We have to adapt with a new normal life, right? Since pandemic and now endemic. But the thing is, for people with disability in Islam, historically we know that Muslim rulers caring for disabled people. We know before that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was really include people with disability in society activities and really acknowledge and recognize them, their rights and their potential, so on and so forth. And throughout history, we can see how Umar ibn al-Khattab, the third Muslim leader, provided a blind man with housing near the mosque after the father of the disabled boy complained to Umar about his son being unable to reach the mosque. And in Damascus, the Umayyad Caliph Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik established the first care home for intellectually disabled individuals. He also built the first hospital, which accommodated the intellectually disabled as part of its service. He also assigned each disabled and needy individual a caregiver. So, mashallah, if we can revive back the history, can provide, yes, like Sister Adhura said, that the university had provided us with certain facilities, but the thing is how we can provide the facilities and use the facilities in appropriate ways. Okay, I'm really touching when Sister Adhura said about entering the lift. Okay, that the space to enter the list, students go first and not let the disabled people go first. So when she mentioned about lack of training with, I think and I believe that we need to do practical suggestion like Sister Adhura said that. So from now understand that many trainings are needed to treat a person with disability, not to treat for person with disability only. Person without disability also need to understand and know how to treat person with disability. So we have to tackle both people. And short still the same, PWD, people with disability and people without disability, right? And we learn also from Caliph Omar Abdul Aziz conducted a consensus of the people with disabilities. He appointed guides and servants to care for them. And Sultan Qalawun, for example, built a hospital which specialized in treating psychological disabilities. It provided peaceful atmospheres with stipends for the patients. So from these examples, we know that throughout Islamic history, from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to certain caliphs, rulers, they try their best to provide freedom of life, protection and dignity, as well as facilitation to person with disability. So these three important words here, I would like to stress how should we treat person with disability in Islam. Yes, there are many ways, but here this uh, 4 points here: freedom of life, protection and dignity, and facilitation for person with disabilities are important points to treat person with disability in Islam. So we have to learn a lot from history, and we have to implement the policies uh, accordingly, appropriately, and we have to do more trainings for both person with disabilities and person without disability to reach or to realize disability inclusion in our current society, I mean in IIUM itself. Okay, and after that we can expand to outside the community of IIUM. When people in education atmosphere understand more about disability inclusion, henceforth disability inclusion can become an awareness and can be realized in day-to-day activities in society at any place at any time, inshallah.
Inshallah, yes. I agree with what Dr. Zunaidah say about we look back at the history. We learn when we want to improve or we doesn't want history to repeat itself. We take a look from the history and we learn from it and we improvise. So here what IIM did, we learn from the history Prophet Muhammad SAW and the companions. And here what the link with what Sister Adhura said, that I can see that a lot of students that use the facility that provided for disability people, because they are lack, I don't want to say that all of them, but most of them are lacking of common sense. So here, the question that I want to ask Sister Adhura is, because you can see that IIM already provide the facilities for disability people, but then the community itself, they are lacking for tolerance and also acceptance for the people with disability. So what can IIM do to teach the community how to treat the person with disability?
Okay, so I guess what I'm going to talk about is what we already have and what I would suggest to that we do. So the first thing is what we already have. So we already have students with disability club, which is kind of like in a silo. We do have a disability services unit under Prof Rosita, which is also one of my professors from the Kuala of Economics. And we also have a yearly event called the IIUM Disability Grant Awareness Campaign, or IDGAC, every single year to talk about disability. They provide kind of like an intro to disability equality training. They provide a lot of things. But the problem with all of these things is that everyone seems to work in silos. There, so as a because I've worked with policymakers. I've worked with businesses outside of IUM. I work with NGOs outside of IUM. So I do a lot of things. But even then, I don't think that I am the best person to talk about policy making and its implementation. But I'll try my best. So what can we do is we can do a multiple pronged approach where we can focus on the most important parts about this. So we already have the facilities, we already have the clubs, we already have the programs, we already have all of these things. But what we're not doing is actually we're not assessing the impact, because we are not assessing the impact of our programs, of our clubs, of our institutions, organizations. We are not actually doing it. I would say correctly. I would say as effective or as efficient as possible. So what I would suggest is number one, making sure that we assess the impacts of our program to make sure that okay, so how many people have we reached? How many people understand what disability means? How many people know that if they have a disability, either permanent or not permanent, permanent or temporary, where can they go? Because I still have students who are in their third year, fourth year asking me, I'm sorry, sister, I am autistic, I have ADHD, I have all of this disability that is categorized under disability, and I need help. Now I realize that I'm in my third year. I realize that I need help in my studies, and where do I go? So we have all of these facilities, but they don't know where to go. So that is an issue of information sharing. That is an issue of the campaigns of marketing itself, if to put it blindly. So what I would say is focus on the administrative staff, focus on training administrative staff, lecturers, even student leaders. Like for example, I am a student leaders. Before this, it was SRC. Do you know that the SRC office used to be on the fourth floor above the admin building? I know because I went up there by climbing all the steps, because what can I do? That's the only way that I can talk to them. So we need to make sure that all of these upper echelons of our university are trained, so that we can actually get an efficient impact, an effective impact from our programs. We keep doing all of these programs. We keep doing all of these talks where we invite parents of people with disabilities or students with people with disabilities. But what we're not doing is actually we're not assessing the impact and figuring out what can we do better and what can we do less. So these things are important. So actually, I forgot to. I'm not sure if I answer your question because I forgot the question. Can you repeat that?
My question is how I am should teach the community how to treat the person with disability.
Yeah. So I guess I've kind of like touched on it briefly, where disability equality training. I was trained by a UNICEF person, so because of a program, so it is quite useful. So I believe that every single staff, every single people who are handling with other students, who are handling other people, like for example lecturers, administrative staff, even sometimes even the president, director, and everyone should have a certification of disability equality training. Because why? Because then they understand what disability is and how they can help other people to achieve to achieve accessibility, because I personally am proud of my disability. You know, I mean, like, I like myself. So even though I can only use one hand and I cannot use my left hand, but I, yeah, like I love my disability. I love that Allah has given me this life, a second life. And and yes, we need to teach that disability is not a bad word, it's not negative, it's not a slur, except of course certain words in Malay is a slur because it's used to mock people. But disability itself is not a bad thing. It's a normal thing, because I would say that everyone will become disabled in their lives at some point, either because they go through an accident or they just become old. You know, as we get old, we will become much. We cannot move a lot. Our knees hurt, our back hurt. We cannot hear. We cannot hear clearly. We cannot even see clearly. So all of this is part of disability, and disability is part and parcel of our life. So what IIUM can do is not to teach people to empathize people with disability now just because they are going to be disabled later, but because disability is human, disability is normal. And and as I said before, that's how I think that we should approach disability awareness in IIUM. Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Adhura. I like it. She just saying the disability is no more, it's a human. Yes, I always believe that in Islam views disability as a challenge side by Allah, and Allah only challenge the people who He loves. So I think it's no more that Sister Adhura is just saying. So thanks for Sister Adhura sharing the answer of the question, and also talk about the issue. The Prophet Sallallahu was toward the person with disability and pity them. As Muslim, we should follow the Sunnah and person with disability equality and with tolerance. So is there anything Doctor would like to aid to the understanding of this? Dr. Zunaidah?
Okay, thank you, Sister Maria. Yes, we should learn from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tolerant, accepted, tolerance, acceptance, and treatment to person with disability. There are many examples that we need to revive back how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam treats them. For example, there was a companion named Afraja. He has problem with his nose, and how sorry, short break. Okay, okay, and for example, how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam dealing with Afraja, which has problem with his nose, Hassan bin Sabit who went blind, and Abdullah bin Mas'ud. And not only the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the community, the companions around the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam were in a sense of competition to serve and take care of person with disability. Okay, I would like to mention here this example of a hadith from which we can learn from the case of Afraja, which mentioned in hadith At-Tirmizi, Abu Dawud, An-Nasa'i, and so others. Okay, that Afraja bin Asad, who had his nose cut off at the Battle of Al-Kulab, got a silver nose, but it developed a stench. So the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered him to get a gold nose. So this is how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam acceptance and understanding to the person with disability. And we know that in Islam, concession provided to person with disability in implementation or fulfilling their religious obligation. Okay, for example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained to people with disability, if they cannot pray standing, they can pray sitting. If they cannot pray sitting, they can lying on one side, so on and so forth. There are many other concession which we may discuss on other sessions. But importantly, uh, it is our responsibility. It is society's responsibility. Each and every one of us, okay, in community. If we are in a family, okay, as a family member, as members in educational system, and as society, a member in society, we must to facilitate the inclusion of people with disabilities. We can learn from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam deal with person with disability. For example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited a man and prayed in his home when the man decided to start a mosque in his home due to weak eyesight. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also honored a woman with psychological disorder when she asked to consult with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam privately. And we know that Allah forbid believers to mock each other. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also warned that Allah curses anyone who misguides a blind person and leads him away from the path. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say that victory and sustenance come from sincere prayers of the weakest among us. So we know that weakest among us are including person with disability. Okay, so in order to have inclusion for inclusion, disability inclusion, there are many actions can be taken by us to assist people with disability. What Sister Adhura had shared with us, how IIUM provide facilities, but we still need some trainings, so on so forth. The trainings not only for person with disability, for students as well, for admin staff as well, for lecturers as well. Okay, we have to cooperate and tolerate each other, accept each other and cooperate each other, because as Sister Adhura put forward that disability is not something abnormal, it is human, it is normal, because disability is part and parcel of life, and almost every one of us, I mean almost all people, we will be facing disability in life if they are not disabled yet. Okay, we have many disability. If although we are not disabled, we still have a certain disability. Okay, so that is why it's very important for us to raise more awareness about disabilities and facilitate inclusiveness for them. And we should do this regularly in sermons, seminars, so on and so forth. Although yes, we have done that, but we have to keep on the track. I mean, still many can be done. Although through seminars, sermons, and so on. So this webinar is a good platform as well to spread awareness on disability inclusion. And yes, many can be done to make community centers, IIUM, masjid, not only masjid at IIUM, okay, outside, I mean, all masjid, so on, accessible for people with disability. And it is better also, it is good also to get to know one person with disability and their family members and offer any assistance possible. Okay, so for example, as a lecturer or for lecturers, they can ask a person with a disability, because nowadays in the class list, okay, we can see, okay, this student have a special need. So lecturers can ask students anything, can need assistance, so on and so forth. So it is very important for educators to assist students with disability to be integrated in curricula as well as programs. And yes, IIUM as employers should look ways to accommodate people with disabilities. Yes, as acknowledged by Sister and Adhura and Mariam as well, that IUM has provided many facilities to disabled students, and disabled student also, people with disability also choose IIUM as their university. Okay, as I also have some students with disability, one blind, another one autism. Okay, and when I ask the blind one, why do you choose this university instead of other university, for example, other university will offer Islamic studies. So he mentioned several factors that why he chose IIUM as his educational institution. So overall, it is important for us to learn from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the companions, and all Muslim scholars and Muslim rulers who provided the facilities, and we can enhance more which aspect which have been done previously and not be done in our current setting. And importantly, we have to include all people in the community to get to know and understand more about disabled people.
Inshallah. Yes,
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Zunaidah.
thank you. Okay, so yes, just like what Sister Adhura and also Dr. Zunaidah said, that disability is not abnormal, and it should not be focusing on physical disability, but also mental disability that we cannot see it with our eyes. And also, just like what Dr. Zunaidah tell us about the what has been said by Prophet Muhammad SAW, that we should not mocking people with disability. We should helping them and take care of them, and is um, this is relating to being empathic. So, Sister Adhura, uh, for being empathic, how we want to train ourselves to be more empathic of person with disability.
Okay, so that's easy. You just be kind and nice to people. So even if it means you have to be a bit of passive aggressive, but yeah, I mean, like, just to say, I am not a very people person. I am socially awkward technically, and I do dislike talking to people most of the time. So sometimes when I was younger, I come off as a bit arrogant or a bit off and a bit weird. And I mean, like, I know a lot of people say that to me even until now. But yeah, but you do have to develop certain skills where you are able to be where you are able to collect certain cues of people. For example, you have to be wary of how you say things, what you say things is about, and it helps to ask feedback from people. Like for example, I mean, like we do not know what people are facing with. Everyone, I believe that everyone are facing their own demons, or everyone are facing their own things. Like even if it's just problems, episodes, or even things at home. So we do not know all these things. But what we can do is we can always make sure that we take care of our words and our actions to make sure that we do not, because when I say that we do not offend people, it also means that I personally believe that offense is a choice, meaning that no matter how much we try, if the person wants to be offended with it, that's probably up to the person lah. But for me, I try my best to not offend people. Sorry, this is my cat, I think. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not too late to train yourself to be much more empathetic. I mean, like, take it from me, I am a person who is very socially anxious and socially awkward. So if I can do it, then probably you can too. I mean, like, people have told me that I'm a good leader. I have no idea what that means. And so yeah, I mean, like, just ask them, are you okay? How are you feeling today? Like, for example, you have a group work and you have to spearhead a team or something, because I have actually handled both international and local teams with different time zones, with different nationalities. So it takes a while. It's a learning curve, but I assure you that it pays off. To being empathetic towards people with disability is not just towards people with disability, but it's about understanding what people's needs and how you can actually tap into that understanding to make sure that whatever that you do, people are okay with it, people understand what you want to do, and the work gets done, because like I said, offense is a choice lah. But I personally make sure that whatever that I commit to, I'm fine with it. You can always ask them what do they need and how you can actually fulfill that needs to ensure that they are okay. Like for example, I once have a friend whose parent died during our group, during the duration of our group work. And when I heard that, I immediately asked him, do you need more time to actually live, to actually take some time to grieve, even though the deadline is near. I mean, like I said to him, I can cover your part if you are not able to, if you need to take some time to be sad, to cry, or to grieve lah, because that is being human. So when we talk about being empathetic towards people with disability, it's a bit weird, because it's not just towards people with disability. It's about being empathetic towards any human beings that you come across to. So cultivating that kind of skill takes time, but it's worth it. That's what I'm going to say.
Thanks, Sister Adhura, and you are very as a friend. And we just listened to Dr. Zunaidah talk about understanding, and it's very interesting and benefit point of understanding that. Could you please tell us more about how you teach your students about disability inclusion, or how could we teach this one to uh, about Islam?
Okay. Honestly, I might, I, I think I did not teach about disability inclusion as per se. I mean specifically on a topic on disability inclusion as we do today about disability inclusion. Um, However, I engaged them in some programs by organizing some programs related to disability, and invited them as speakers, okay, to talk about learning Quranic, learning the Quran by autism and blind people, or I mean person with disability on memorizing the Quran. Okay, because my field is Quran and Sunnah studies, so when we talk about disability, I would like to focus more something related to disability and our field, Quran and Sunnah studies. So I have been invited in some, not too many, just a few talk regarding disability, and I had organized about disability and how person with disability can memorize the Quran. Okay. And also, as a lecturer, we have to provide syllabus or course outline, right? So when I was members of curriculum review back to 2019, 2020, I suggested to add disability to add disability subtopics. Which subtopics that we can accommodate disability issues. Okay, any topic relevant to our courses. There are several courses, around 5 courses. Okay, there are many subtopics that can be accommodate disability issues in the subtopics. So I suggested, and the committee accepted, but inshallah we will be implementing new curriculum review or new course outline from semester 2 221 or 222 batch. But I'm not sure because that committee, I was not in the latest committee of curriculum review. But the thing is, I have suggested, and alhamdulillah, in certain courses we have relevantized some subtopics related to disability. For example, we have one course which talk about health from Quran and Sunnah perspective. So I suggested to incorporate disability issues in that syllabus. Okay. So and I also ask students, okay, if I have disability or person with disability in my classes, I ask students what can I help them, is there any assistance needed, because we do not know, maybe some students need more time. The thing is, I would like to stress here, sometimes students so afraid of lecturer, I do not know why. So there is a break of communication. So I always tell my student from the beginning of semester that there should be no break of communication. Any problem, you must tell your lecturers, have a good communication, because if lecturers do not let know by students, especially person with disabilities, so we do not know what should be done. Okay, so if yes, almost every time I personally ask them, but if they are facing anything, so students have to approach lecturers. Okay, because we have many students, sometimes we do not know which student have more problem, what problem, so on and so forth. And some students tend to missing in action. Yes, certain people, not only student, certain people, they are facing problem and they prefer to run from the problem by not talking about it, by not sharing about it. So they just missing in action instead of sharing with others and find solution. So it is very important for a person with or without disability having any problem to share with others, not necessarily share in media social and to inform all people. No, importantly, to share with close people, especially between students and lecturers, so that lecturers can help to facilitate the student. Okay. I hope my answer really answer your question.
Yes, absolutely, Doctor. And yeah, for me that I agree that students with disability, they themselves cannot depend on other people for seeking help. They have to depend on themselves, and they have to reach out to other people, or else they will never get the help that they need. And also, what interesting about Dr. Zunaidah point, where she suggests the idea of inserting the about disability in the syllabus. So I think it's a good idea, and I hope it will be implemented soon, because when we teach about disability inclusions to the students, it will help to spread awareness about disability inclusion. So I think it's a very nice suggestion. Okay, so Sister Adhura, so this is the last questions for Sister Adhura. I see that you already face a lot of experience in IIUM or outside IIUM, and most of the experience is a nice, and most of them is not a nice experience, right? So what I want to ask you is, what is your hope for our community to learn and understand regarding disability inclusion?
Okay, so that's fun. That's fun to talk about. So what I would say is more of a two pronged approach. The first approach is towards people with disability themselves, especially students. Because I don't know, because I maybe, even though despite the fact that I do admit that I am socially awkward and an introvert and socially anxious. How do I say that? I do keep a very close tie with my lecturers, because it's not just helpful during class, but it's also helpful when you want, especially other students, not just for for students with disabilities. It's very helpful when you want to ask for recommendation letters when you want to apply for grad school later, or even when you want to put them into your CV. So yeah, keep close ties with certain people, um with especially with your lecturers, because they understand you better than you think. And I don't know, man, like, and also for people with disabilities, I do hope, especially students, I do hope that we get out of this fear of our disability, because I know some of us takes a while to admit that we are disabled. Like, I mean, like, I took a few. I mean, I've been disabled for, I've been since 2017, so about 5 years now. So I guess it took a bit of a learning curve to be comfortable with my body, with myself, with my mind, and with how I do things. So it's gonna take a while, but I do hope that you get through it, and I do hope that we all can be supportive of each other. Meaning that, some of us don't understand that disability is not because of ourselves, but because of the environment. And some of us think that disability um how do you say it? Is because Allah or God hates us. It's not because of that. It's because Allah loves us, as Sister Maria has already said. It's because Allah puts us in the position because we are able to go through it. And like I said, I love my disability. I mean, like, it has made me who I am, and I love who I am. So that's what I hope. I hope that we stand up for, not just for us, for each other, but also for future generations of children with disabilities, because they're gonna get a harder time with climate change, with all of the regional conflicts, and etc. The world is moving towards a different space, and I do hope that it starts with accepting ourselves, but we also need to be much more resilient and much more aware of the future. So that's one. That's kind of like the things that we have to do, because for people with disability themselves. But for people who are not disabled, I do hope that we as a community not just tolerate each other, but also accept each other. And this does not mean that people for disability only as a minority, but also people from different nationalities, people from different backgrounds, people from different areas or groups or social status. So what I hope is that we as a community, we celebrate our differences and we take into account to try to make sure that we not only have equal access to opportunities, education, all of those things, but we do have equitable access, meaning that some people may need more access, may need more help than the other. And I hope that we are able to fight to ensure that these access are given equitably, because we do need that. So I guess that's kind of like wraps up everything because yeah, but that's all from me, of course.
Thanks, Sister Adhura. Actually, most of the time, the people see disabled people in UIA or in the society. Uh, I will feel the fear that if I go to help them or ask them, do you need help, then will make them feel uncomfortable. But the sister just saying that we need to stand up for them and also stop being the silent people. And for the future, also for the children, we have to stand up. Yeah, that's right. And also, I got the last question for Dr. Zunaidah. How can we practice this ability in conclusion in Islam? For example, we can learn about the importance of paying attention to the blind people, as the doctor just mentioned the hadith, and we how can we just practice the disability in Islam, Dr. Zunaidah?
Okay, Maria. Uh, Practically, I learned a lot from what Sisters Adhura's suggestions from the beginning of the session till the end. So her suggestions basically can sum up the what need to be done regarding disability inclusion. Okay, but I would like to add here more points regarding how society, okay, each and every one of us have to read and get to know about disability and its various types, because by reading and knowing about disability and its various types can help us to understand more about disability and each type of disability, what are the needs of particular disability. For example, blind people, they have their own needs. Cerebral palsy, like my son, he has own needs, okay, and there are very types of cerebral palsy, and each type of cerebral palsy has different needs. So it is very important for people to read and to know about disability and its types, so that from reading and knowing, we learn how to tolerate with people, how to accept other people and facilitate them in their life. Okay, so basically we need to know whether people with disability has intellectual disability or physical disability or behavioral disability. Okay, so by knowing this and understanding this, we can accommodate their basic needs and facilities, as well as it is very important also, other than reading and knowing and understanding, then accommodate the basic needs and facilities. It is very important also to engage them in activities and programs. And for example, what we do today by inviting Sister Adhura to share her insight on disability inclusion, tolerance and acceptance. So it is very important for us to expose people to disability inclusion, by sharing experience, knowledge, and make awareness to society. Other than that, we have to help each other um, to facilitate the implementation, because what is important now is implementation. As Sister Adhura said that yes, we are having facilities, for example parking facilities, but it's too small and not really appropriate here and there. So uh, the implementation of facilities is very important. So we have to know whether it is suitable or not for people with disability. Whether, for example, when entering the lift, it is hopefully that uh, we ask the people with disability first to enter the lift, then before us. So the implementation is very important. Other than awareness, other than knowledge and understanding, and other than providing basic needs and facilities. So basically, for awareness, understanding, so on and so forth, we can say that it's very important to include disability topics in formal education, as well as in informal education. For example, khutbah, sermons, okay, seminar, so on and so forth. And in formal education, we have to educate, to train in formal education, in formal schools up to university, and not only educational institution but also all institution, including working institutions. I think that's all from me, and I would like to apologize if all of my answers not really answer the questions, but I hope by this short sharing is open and eyes to this topic, disability, tolerance and inclusion at IUM and Islamic perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zunaidah, for the insights about how we can practice disability inclusion in Islam. And yeah, I agree that implementation is very important, because when we want to provide the facilities, we not only just show that, all right, we already provide the facilities, but we must consider every aspect, whether the facilities can be used or it's suitable for the people. All right, so there's we are already near the end of our webinar. So for the last one, I want to ask whether Sister Adhura or Dr. Zunaidah, if you guys have any words to tell the audience. So we can start first with Sister Adhura.
Okay, thanks. So because I guess I thought I've already wrapped up earlier, but then Sister Maria asked a good question. I mean, like, she asked how if I mean, like, sometimes people are afraid because they might get we might get uncomfortable and etc. But I would say, I mean, like, there's something that we always say, because we've been talking about implementation a lot and we've been talking about all of these things. The slogan that in my community body space we always say is nothing about us without us, meaning that talk with us, not to us, or not for us, because we want to be included in policy making to ensure that what we need is actually what is being implemented, not because what people think that we need is being implemented. So like, for example, if you feel like someone needs help, ask them. I mean, like, hey, do you need help? I mean, that's the easiest way you can do it. And if they say yes, then you can help. If they say no, then that's fine. You can just go when you're with your life. So it goes back to implementation, where if you are doing things regardless whether it's for people with disability or not, you have to include all of your stakeholders, right? And you have to ensure that these stakeholders includes people with disability, because what are you doing about people with disability, or even it's just, or even if you think that it's not about people with disability at all, like for example covid management. So if you are okay, so this is a health crisis, so basically you think this is not about people with disability, but you forget people with disability is affected by every part of their life. Everything affects them. So you always have to include, to make sure that every single minority, if possible, is is part of your stakeholder in terms of policy implementation. So yeah, that's all from me.
All right, thank you so much, Sister Adhura. Okay, Dr. Zunaidah, you have any last word?
Okay, thank you, Sister Fatimatul. I believe action and implementation speak louder than speaking, okay, and then I mean just talking. Yes, speaking, talking in webinars, seminars, so on and so forth are important and necessary, but action and implementation must be there. So I believe if we talk about disability inclusion uh, in at IUM, okay, I believe it's time for us now to take action, to list down what have been done and what yet to be done for disability inclusion in IUM. Action research must be there. We have to take action, and action research must be there. And perhaps through disability unit platform, we can uh, urge the authority to provide more, okay, for people with and without disability, okay, within the capacity of IUM, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Dr. Zunaidah. I hope that the discussion between the lecturer at IIM and also student at IIM will bring and make IIM a better place to include everyone. All right, so we are at the end of our webinar. So we would like to express our gratitude to both of our amazing speakers, Dr. Zunaidah and also Sister Adhura, for sharing an insightful information regarding disability inclusion. So personally, I gained a lot of knowledge from both of you, and I hope that our audiences also gain the same or better knowledge than me. And we also want to apologize for any shortcoming and for the technical issue that happened during the early of our webinar. And again, we would like to thank our speakers and our audiences that willingly spending their time to attend and join this webinar. And we also want to thank our class instructor, Dr. Aida, and beloved classmates to make this webinar successful. So that's all from us. We will end our webinar today with Tasbih Kifara and Suratul As. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you so much, Sister Adhura and also Dr. Zunaidah for joining us.
Thank you. See all of you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, alhamdulillah.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.